Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. MBG here with a look at the newest Imperial Armour book. This is the Siege of Vraks, and it's quite the doozy. You know, this book just came out, and it's roughly a 300-pager here, and it has a ton of rules for units that already had rules. And a lot of people had a question like, wait a minute, is this like a compilation? Is this like a reprint? And there isn't a whole lot of answers over on the Forge World site, to be honest. And the big kicker is that there's 3 other Siege of Vraks books. There's part 1, 2, and 3, which I believe is Imperial Armour 5, 6, and 7. So, you know, lots of questions out there because this book basically appears to indeed replace the 3 other books, the Siege of Vraks books, which I happen to have right here as well. You've got part 5, part 6, volume 5, 6, and 7 of Imperial Armour Saga, of course, part 1, 2, and 3 of the Siege of Vraks. Now, the Siege of Vraks books came out, I guess, about 2005, 2006, probably roughly 10 years ago, and they basically showcased a lot of new releases that Forge World was coming out with. They didn't really seem to have kind of like a release schedule. They just kind of put stuff out whenever. Of course, the Reaver Titan came out right around that time, and subsequently the Chaos Reaver Titan. Ton of models, ton of Chaos stuff, the Greater Brass Scorpion. There was some Demon Princes, the Death Corps came out for the first time, and all their Death Corps awesome tanks, models. There was some upgrade kits for the Red Scorpions, the Dark Angels. I think there was even some Grey Knight stuff, definitely an Inquisitor model, Inquisitor Rex. So there was lots of cool stuff, and they all kind of put it all into the 3 books that came out and kind of felt their way as they went. And the result was that we basically got 3 books. And now Games Workshop seems to be going back with the release of, what was it? So we had Imperial Armour 1, which is the guard stuff. Imperial Armour 2, which was the Space Marines. Imperial Armour 3, which was the Taros campaign, which is basically Tau, and we had Imperial Armour 4, the Amphibian Project, which was the Tyranids, and those all have come out. So now we hit Imperial Armour 5, 6, and 7, and it looks like they were just compilated into what we have here, the Siege of Vraks. And I know that this is basically a replacement, or I'm assuming, by this line right here where it says first edition written by Warwick Kincaid and Alan Bly. Of course, Alan Bly went out to write a lot of the heresy stuff that's out right now currently, and according to this is a revised edition written by Tamia Fox, Neil Weil, and Andy Horay. So kudos to them for putting this out, but again, hopefully that clears up some questions for people out there that might be like, hey, I don't know what's in here, you know, what's going on with this? Well, here's what's going on with this. It's roughly a 300-page book. You've got the normal fluff sections here, albeit they are extremely condensed. There was roughly 18 chapters of fluff in these other 3 books, condensed down into about 6 chapters of fluff here, with the epilogue and basically kind of the whole story of the campaign. And then you get into the Death Corps' Decree, Death Corps, where it gives you an army list, which we saw a very similar one in a previous Imperial Armour. I believe it was Imperial Armour 12, the Orpheus conflict, where it has some Necron stuff in there. It also had the Death Corps of Siege army list. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's very hard to keep track of it all. So we've got that. We've got all these units. They're in here. The rules form are in here. And then you get into the Renegades, which, remember the Renegade kits, those crazy chaos-looking guardsmen that were made to go with the Cadian plastics, came out in this series of books as well. So you've got those guys in here. Now, we've got all these units for them. And if you remember correctly, Imperial Armour 13 just came out, the Forces of the Lost and Damned, which was basically Chaos Demons and Chaos Renegades, and we had a very similar list, albeit pretty much the same. I haven't gone through and broken all of this down yet because that's going to be a whole nother video in and of itself to kind of compare it to the other books, but I did notice some very similar elements in here, which led me to believe that it may just be a cut and paste with a few things here and there. I don't remember seeing salamander squadrons, but there's definitely plague zombie mobs, and it works pretty much the same way. This video isn't really to show you all these rules and show you those things. This video is to show you the format of the book, review the book, and kind of move on from there. If we do some tips and tactics, we'll go back in here and show you what's in here and what I think about fielding this or that, or some things to keep in mind. So that being said, let's dive right in and kind of take a look at what comes in this book. Okay, so like I said earlier, this is roughly a 300-page book compared to the other books, which are roughly 150 pages each. You don't really miss out on a whole awful lot. Some of them are upwards of 200, so you know the difference is negligible, a couple of hundred pages here or there. The writing was done by primarily by Warwick Kincaid back in the day, and to be honest, it was great for back in the day, but the writing itself, you know, I feel like we've been spoiled here recently with Alan Bly and some of the other staff at Forge World as well. When it comes to actual writing, it seems the stuff in here seems very old and rustic and forced, and it's not the flow we're used to. You've got the 6 chapters here of fluff that are basically condensed down, a lot of older stuff, but the story pretty much follows the exact same course that the previous Vraks versions did. You know, you've got the apostate cardinal that gets, you know, there's an assassination attempt, you know, he's basically going rogue, and then there's an assassination attempt, and he's using it as an example to elicit support from the population and basically take over by force, and then it turns into a protracted siege, and it just turns into a whole mess, and eventually the planet is reclaimed and taken back by the Imperium, but at that point it doesn't even matter because it's like a mud ball and completely worthless. So the book has all sorts of elements in here. We got Dark Angels, we got Grey Knights, we got Red Scorpions. You know, going back through here and looking at a lot of the pictures and things, it's been spruced up a bit, but we're still seeing a lot of the older graphics. And you know, there was a Battlefield Gothic component to this back in the day. Gothic was still a thing, so there's some really cool space pictures in here using some of the ships of old. You know, I'm not exactly sure what, you know, it's cool to see, but you know, it's cool. I kind of wish, you know, there was a little bit fresher stuff in here, I guess, but nonetheless, you know, the character models and the profiles and things and all the artwork is very cool. There's this one here, the Titan Princeps, one of my favorites, where it basically shows, kind of goes over what all he's wearing, and you know, things like that. And then we get all the Deathcore and Rar, things like that. And then you get into the Red Scorpions, who are also in here. Remember, they were a big thing, and they were also in, I think there was some stuff for them in Badab. This was a poster, I think that this is Hector Rex. This was a poster way back in the day, and pretty cool poster indeed. I think I actually picked that one up and misplaced it here over the years. So very cool artwork when it comes to profiles and stuff, but some of the other stuff in here is still dated. Model, you know, just pictures of models and just general graphics and things like that. So once you get through all of the fluff, like I said, it is, you know, quasi-substantial. You get to the actual rules. And the Deathcore are in here, like I said. They're very similar to the Imperial Armour, I believe it's 12 book, the Fall of Ophidius, or the Ophidian campaign, I forget which, but it's in here, and they are very similar. And of course, they get more into the fact that they are 7th edition. You've got ally charts in here, force org things, all sorts of things kind of converted over, warlord traits, special orders. Then they get into the HQ sections, and away they go. Like this is pretty much almost half of the book is the Deathcore Creek. And then you get to, which you already saw, they've got 2 different battle detachments in here that you can feel, you know, that's kind of cool too. It's stuff from 7th edition. Obviously this is new. Look at that hot, you know, profile, you know, kind of imagery down here at the bottom. You know, all of this stuff is new. You won't find this in the old books here. They're pretty much just that plain white, kind of like one of those old military manuals from way back in the day that you might pick up to look at, you know, jet fighters or something like that. Now, a lot of this fluff is cut out. You'll notice it's not in here. This is the old book. This was the very first one where they kind of showcased all the Vraks stuff. So in that regard, it's kind of missing a few things. But then again, it's this book also has a little bit more, in my opinion. Then we get into the Renegade section. Like I said, it's very similar to what was in Imperial Armour 13. So it's Renegades of Vraks, and then it gets into, it's basically battle-forged armies here. Then you got special rules, and for instance, you've got the Demagogue Devotions, which is exactly what was in Imperial Armour 13. Warlord traits, very similar to Imperial Armour 13. Renegade Command Squad, you got the Master of Renegades, which in Imperial Armour 13, you basically, that's how you took the Plague Zombie mob right here. You could field one unit of up to 50 of them. Boom, there it is. So, you know, it's a lot of recycled content, recycled imagery, not quite as new and fresh as Imperial Armour 13 looked. But then again, you know, they had all this content. Why not reuse it, I guess? You got the models, let's get some rules for them. So, like I said, I'm not going to go through and compare and contrast the whole thing, but then again, maybe that's something we'll do in the future. I just wanted to show you basically the layout and everything you get in here. Now, unlike Imperial Armour 13, you do not have these detachments in the very back. I don't think they had access to super heavies either. So that's really cool to see. Then you get into, where is it? After the summaries. Oh, then there's a special Heroes and Heretics section. And something very particular about this that I want to show you. There's Inquisitor Hector Rex. In here they tell you exactly what you can field it as. And of course, the Inquisition army didn't exist back then. So this is most definitely a revision. Necrosis. Definitely take a special look at him. He's got some really interesting rules in here. Some specific psychic powers. And he also gave zombies a Furious Charge special rule. Not exactly like zombies are going to be running out charging anything, but it's pretty cool to see in and of itself. I think there was also something else cool in here. Oh, the Gift of Contagion. Waste and Disease isn't that bad. So you can take any number of plague zombies as non-compulsory troop choices. So if you want to take plague zombies, you don't have to spend, or you don't have to only take 50 of them. You can take as many as you want. So go buck wild. Then you get into some more demons. And right here, this is kind of interesting. Oh, it's not that one. Where is it? There was something in here that said, note, this character is different from the one presented in Imperial Armour Volume 13, War Machines of the Lost and the Damned. It does not replace him. So I don't exactly know, but it's interesting to see that you have this guy who is also in Imperial Armour 13, which was released not that long ago. And so there's very different distinctions between the two. And we haven't seen that before. A lot of times when something gets replaced, they don't really say it was replaced. You're just supposed to know it was replaced. So if they didn't tell us this, we would have just assumed that it was replaced. So now I guess the thing is, it only is not replaced if it says so. So always assume everything is replaced, and that the most current printed version, I guess, is the up-to-date version, unless it says so right here. So I guess there's technically two of the Warbound Iraq and Demon Prince of Khorne out there that you can choose from. Again, I need to compare and contrast all this stuff. This really isn't the video for it. And then it gets into the back here where it just shows off some Grey Knight stuff, which that Dreadnought was actually a new release back then. There were some doors and things like that. So it all kind of comes full circle in the smaller revised book, which has a decent amount of rules, but you know, for the money, you could probably skip this one. A lot of regurgitation of the actual rules and the actual fluff really isn't. You know, there's pros and cons. If you're not vested in either of these armies, don't even pick up the book. You don't need it. The story is very the same. You can find, I'm sure you'll find these books out there at a discount in the near future. So I'm going to say pass on this unless you absolutely need these rules. You play Deathcore, you're into Deathcore, or you're really into the Renegades. So hopefully we can get another video soon comparing and contrasting the Deathcore in here with Imperial Armour 12, as well as the Renegades with Imperial Armour 13, because there is so much going on in here. I'm sorry if I confused you. I am semi-confused myself, and the whole point of this video was to review this book and kind of clear up the confusion and show you guys what's in it and show you that it is a second printing, even though it doesn't say it's a second printing, even though all the Forge World books normally say second edition. Okay, I think I got it all out. Alright, so make sure you stay in the trenches, subscribe to this YouTube channel, check out the blog, spikybitsblog.com, and listen to the podcast, Forge the Narrative.